Miami Dolphins have a bunch of holes on their roster. I'm Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and I'm going to be breaking down the top offensive free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins. So in my last video, I went over all of the Miami Dolphins needs, and in this video, I'm just going to be going over the offensive targets this upcoming free agency, and then the next video will be the defensive targets. But starting on the offensive side, I'm going to start with the wide receiver position, as the Dolphins lack depth, so they need to add some. And some of the targets, once again, I'm not looking for some high-end guy who is going to make more than $8 million a year. So some targets for the Dolphins to look at this free agency. Start with bringing back some of our own. River Craycraft has been here for the past 2 years. I'd like to see him back in the aqua and orange, and he should be very cheap to do so. Next potential target is also bringing back Cedric Wilson. You don't necessarily have to do this, but he has been productive in moments. He does his job well. Not tremendous, not bad, but you can probably get him for cheap. He knows the system. Just someone that probably will get brought back. Next potential target for the Miami Dolphins at wide receiver is obviously bringing back Braxton Berrios. Once again, similar to the past two, not the best in the world, not bad. Does his job well, but once again, you need depth. You can bring him on the roster to training camp and make him win out a job. These next two options are potentially reuniting former Dolphins back to Miami, starting with Dolphin legend Mack Hollins, one of my favorite most recent Dolphins. Not the best player in the world, tremendous special teamer, but just great locker room guy, has great energy. I still follow him on Instagram as he's very entertaining. The reason I like Mack Hollins, he brings a little different skill set to the wide receiver room that is primarily just purely speed based. Mack Hollins brings some size, some contested catchability, and is a tremendous blocker, so will be very good in the run game. But it should be interesting to see the kind of receiver the Dolphins look to target, because this past offseason they kind of targeted more speedsters.
I feel the need for speed. Ow!
To have behind Waddle and Tyreek, and you kind of need to differentiate what you're looking for. So obviously in a wide receiver room, you want to have different styles of receivers. You'd like someone who can make the tough catches, someone who obviously can create separation, get open, create explosive plays, someone who can have good run after catch, things like that. You want to have different skill sets, but the Dolphins have two of the fastest receivers in all football, which is a tremendous skill set to have. But then you also need to balance out having different skill sets with also properly having backups for your top players, because this past system was really based on timing, and if you have someone who's significantly slower, which most receivers are, than Waddle and Tyreek, then it screws up the timing of the offense. So it should be interesting to see the style of receiver the Dolphins look to target. Is it more speed guys, or is it more bring up someone bigger who's harder to handle, easier to block for our own running game? So that's why I think Mack Hollins brings a different kind of style. The other option would be to bring Trent Sherfield back to Miami. Obviously, I know Dolphins fans are a little heated at him for some comments about Josh Allen and whatnot, but he had a great year in Miami the year he was here. He's a good blocker. Wouldn't hate to see him back. Now, two potential players to mention in case the Dolphins do look to do the speed route, kind of how we brought Robbie Chosen as well as Braxton Berrios in with that speed behind Waddle and Tyreek. If the Dolphins look to kind of do something similar, they could look to get Paris Campbell, formerly of the Giants, and then potentially Mecole Hardman if they want to go that route. It really depends. Are you looking to get someone who's maybe better at rack, someone who's tall and big and better in the run game, or are you looking to kind of get the similar style of receivers? I've already spent too long on receivers, so I'm going to kind of shotgun style the next couple of names, but potential receivers the Dolphins could look out for. Curtis Samuel projected a 2-year, $18 million deal. This would be the higher end of a wide receiver 3. Curtis Samuel from Ohio State, loved him coming out. He's very versatile. He could be a running back kind of receiver hybrid, super athletic, kind of just struggled to stay on the field. Laviska Shenault, more so if they're looking for a rack guy, someone who's going to be cheap because he hasn't had success, but maybe looking for a career resurgence. He's 6'1", 220 pounds, so could potentially fit the bill. Van Jefferson from the Rams, so he fits the system. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, so you know what you're getting for him, and especially with him being in the system. Michael Thomas, if you want to throw a flyer out there, a guy who's barely been able to stay on the field, but he's a bigger receiver. He's going to be good blocking. You can throw him in the slot, throw him on the outside. He's still kind of a good route runner. Just depends on what the Dolphins are looking for. And then the last option, someone I would actually really like for the Dolphins, is Nick Westbrook. He was on the Titans. I remember him coming out, watching an Ohio State game, and watching him dunk on our corners. He's a very good receiver. Makes some plays for the Titans year in, year out. He's 6'2", 211 pounds. He's a good blocker, good at contested catches. So just another kind of receivers to look out for if the Dolphins look to kind of go with a different kind of receiver than they've been going with recently. Now finally on to the next position, which is the tight end position. It was just announced last night that the Dolphins are having negotiations with Jonnu Smith, who was actually on my list prior to that even becoming news, but fits what we're probably looking for at tight end, which is to get a little more athletic and better receiving ability at the position. Jonnu Smith would do that. I have two other names on this list, which would be Noah Fant, whose projected contract per PFF is a 3-year, $24 million deal. So a decent price tag for the tight end position, but Noah Fant is a pretty physical player. Great size, great athletic ability. I remember when he ran at the combine, it was like, 4.5 for a tight end, which was really good. So he kind of gives you that athletic upside that we're currently missing on the roster. And then the last potential option is Gerald Everett, who's projected a 1-year, $5.5 million deal. So not a lot of long-term risk with that. He's had good success in this system, previously being with the Rams and then the Chargers. So another name to look out for. But as mentioned, they are in contract negotiations with Jonnu Smith, which I would be a big fan of adding to the Dolphins. On to our next position of target, and that is the backup left tackle position. Now, I'd honestly like to see this be addressed in the draft, as this is one of the best offensive tackle classes we've ever seen per the people that I respect, like Daniel Jeremiah. But if it were to be addressed in free agency, bringing back Kendall Lamb is probably option number one. When he filled in for Teron Armstead last season, he did a tremendous job, so why not kind of build off of that? But if not, a potential person to look out for is George Fant. He's been known as a swing tackle for 5 years now. I remember when I wanted the Dolphins to sign him a couple free agencies ago, and it seems like every free agency his name pops up. He can play left or right tackle. He's been in the league for a while, and he's had some good seasons as a starting tackle. On to the next position for free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins, and that is the left guard position with Isaiah Wynn, our previous starter, hitting free agency. He's the top of the list. Chris Greer mentioned that him and his agent are in contact and that Isaiah Wynn would like to remain a Miami Dolphin. He shouldn't be too expensive, so I don't see why the Dolphins can't get this deal done. But in case they didn't, some other potential options outside of Isaiah Wynn would be Laken Tomlinson, who I know has a lot of bad taste in some people's mouths because he hasn't had great success recently since getting signed to the New York Jets. But you have to remember where he started, and that was in San Francisco with Mike McDaniel. So he's a fit for the scheme, and he's had success with Mike McDaniel in the past. So just a potential name to look out for. Now, another option for the left guard position would be Dalton Risner, who signed much after the season started this previous season due to a poor free agent contract that he was expecting, but he did well with the Vikings, and his projected contract per PFF is a 3-year, $16.5 million deal, which would be $5.5 million per year average. The next two options at the left guard position are a little more higher end than I think the Dolphins are going to look to go, as we know the cap space, we don't have a lot, so I really think they're going to need to do a really good job of getting cheaper free agents like an Isaiah Wynn. Bringing him back shouldn't cost too much, and you get pretty quality play. So I don't see them dabbling too high end on the guard market, but if they were to, Ezra Cleveland, as well as Damian Lewis, Ezra Cleveland of the Vikings, and then Damian Lewis was in Seattle, both young guys looking to get their first new contract since being rookies. Ezra Cleveland's projected a 3-year, $24 million deal, which is 8 on average, and then Damian Lewis a 4-year, $9.5 million deal, which would be $38 million in total. But even as we've gone through this list, all of these projected contracts, especially for the positions, aren't crazy expensive. Like, you're talking on the high end of some of these markets is going to be like $8 million a year, where if it was an offensive tackle, you're talking $20 to $25 million. And that's really where the Dolphins have done a tremendous job of locking up expensive players. We have Tyreek Hill, our big receiver, already under contract. We have a left tackle under contract. Our quarterback's about to get an extension. But all of the needs are at non-premium positions, so you can get them from anywhere from like $2 to $8 million, and they're going to be pretty quality players. But on to the next target for the Miami Dolphins at the center position. Once again, we're losing our starting center in Connor Williams, so he's a potential name to bring back. Obviously, coming off the ACL tear, should be interesting to see if the Dolphins want to bring him back. Based off Chris Greer's comments, as well as I believe his agent is Drew Rosenhaus, he really wants to wait until he rehabs and feels better about himself before he even looks to sign. So it looks like he's going to have a late market, but maybe he wants to sign a 1-year deal before looking to re-up again, or maybe he wants to sign a long-term deal. PFF projects him a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, which is $7.5 million on average. If he's looking to sign a long-term deal, I'm all for the Dolphins doing that, as I think Connor Williams is a great player, although I really see him looking to sign a 1-year deal to really hit the open market after he gets healthy. Another potential center target for the Dolphins is Aaron Brewer, who was previously of the Titans. I was just kind of looking through different free agencies, and the description about him really popped my eyes. Basically, it is Brewer belongs in a zone rushing scheme where he can use his quick first step and springness at second level to reach linebackers quickly or wall off backside defenders by beating them to the spot. And if you know anything about how the Miami Dolphins play, or you watched Connor Williams previously, that's exactly what the Dolphins do on a basically down in, down out basis. So he's a perfect scheme fit for exactly what we want to do. His projected contract is a 3-year, $20 million deal, which is a $6.67 million on average, which is a pretty good price for someone who perfectly fits our scheme. So that's another guy to look out for if the Dolphins look to pursue a center in free agency. Now, the last position of need on the Miami Dolphins offense that they can look to target in free agency is the right guard position. Once again, with starter Rob Hunt being a free agent, the Dolphins are going to either look to bring him back or look to replace him either in the draft or in free agency. So Robert Hunt's projected contract that I don't think the Dolphins are going to be able to afford or want to afford is a 4-year, $17.5 million deal on average for $70 million in total. So 4 years, $70 million, which is a humongous contract. Shout out to Rob Hunt. Very happy for him, but I just don't think the Dolphins are going to look to pay that kind of money to the right guard position. So I think Robert Hunt's all but gone. Wish him nothing but the best. Happy he's getting his bag. But two potential options the Dolphins could look to pursue in this free agency. First option would be Graham Glasgow, formerly of the Detroit Lions. He's projected a 2-year, $13 million deal, which is $6.5 million on average, over $10 million less per year than Robert Hunt. Glasgow is a little older, but he's a very good player and would be a great fit for the Miami Dolphins. And then the last option would be Coleman Shelton of the Rams, projected a 3-year, $16 million deal, $5.3 million on average. Once again, a good deal. He's from the Rams, which comes from the same tree as McDaniel, so he'd be a scheme fit. And he's been pretty healthy the past couple of years. He's been on the field pretty consistently and has gotten better year in, year out. So another under-the-radar cheap option that the Dolphins could look to target to upgrade this team. And that's what I'm saying. The Dolphins have a lot of holes. I'm aware of that, and we don't have a lot of cap space. But if properly done, they can get a lot of these free agents at a good price and continue to build up this roster, as we have a lot of talent. So it's about really hitting on these budget free agents and then doing well in the draft. But those are the offensive targets. The next video will be the defensive targets. Comment down below. Who do you want to see the Dolphins sign? And I appreciate you guys for watching. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. And until next time, fins up.